What's going on, guys? It's Sal and JB360 here.
Yo.
We're going to redo the motor kit install, but with a 5,000 watt kit on JB's bike. I'm going to show you guys what we need, and we're basically going to do this all over again, but only the same way that I set up my bike that I no longer own. So
right.
Here we go. This is what we need. Mainly, you're going to need socket wrenches and Allen keys. Those are the two biggest things. It's helpful to have a drill tips, and then drill bits for drilling holes. All depends on how you're setting it up yourself, but now we're going to do it. We're definitely going to need that shit. And I would recommend having a good handful of hardware, just screws of different sizes, bolts, stuff like that. It helps with mounting the controller, mounting what the fuck ever, you know.
Right.
So.
Nice. And yeah, as you can see, we pretty much just kind of went ahead and took everything out. You know, the seat. I had the Shark battery on there. Also had the controller with the bag over here in the center frame. But Sal, we're actually going to be putting the Shark on this part of the frame, right?
Yep, exactly. Shark is going to go here. We're going to do a 46 amp hour full frame battery with the panel case in the middle.
Nice.
And we have a 150 amp V2 that's going to go under the seat.
Right.
So we're going to see if we can make this cleaner than the way we set mine up.
Awesome, man. All right, let's get to it.
Hell yeah. First thing we're going to want to do is jack the bike up. If you don't have a bike jack, that's fine. Put it on a tote or a milk crate or whatever you got. Hell, you could even turn it upside down. It doesn't really matter. But if you do jack it up, just watch out for the brake cables. You don't want to pinch them with the bike jack. I've done that before and it crimped the hose, and then I needed a new hose. But it certainly makes life easier with a bike jack, that's for sure. We're going to be starting with the back wheel, since that's the most pain in the ass part. So we got the zip ties cut. We're going to remove the brake caliper to get that out of the way. And then just make sure that there is nothing in the way of the wheel before we take it off. I always put these back inside so I don't lose them. Alright, I'm not seeing anything in the way. Alright, let's pop this bad boy off. When we put these back on, we're going to do a double torque arm setup. I really think that it's necessary for a 5,000 watt setup because it's got a tremendous amount of power. And I started Loctiting these screws as well that hold the torque arms in. That'll definitely make sure that they don't come out. As well as the screws that hold the rotor in place. I actually have seen them back out a couple times all on their own, and they just tore the motor wire to shreds. And that doesn't cover warranty, so let's Loctite those
yeah, let's
those
get
screws.
Those. Exactly. There it goes.
Once we got the wheel off, we're just going to take off this rotor since it's going on the next bike. having this stand for changing tires sure does come in handy. Next thing we're going to do is put on the tire. I like to do that before I put on the rotor, just so that it doesn't get in the way and get soapy water all over it. I always use soapy water to get the tire on. It's way too fucking hard if you don't do it, especially with these. These are motorcycle tires. These things are like, I don't know, 10, 13 pounds, something like that. You'll really fucking need motorcycle tires when you got a strong bike like these.
Right.
It's dangerous using e-bike tires. Do not recommend using them. You know, you have a blowout at high speeds, that's going to be the end of your e-biking days. So get motorcycle tires.
Right. And I'll throw a link in the description for the ones that I used. It was recommended by a friend in the Ariel Rider community on Facebook. So if you guys are interested in this tire, I will put it in the description for you.
So before we do anything with the tires, I'm going to take the valve stem core out and pump these things full of slime. It's really helpful to have. Can't tell you how many times we go on a group ride and somebody gets a flat. Now I keep like a small thing of slime and a little like syringe in my backpack just in case. Nothing ruins a good time worse than a flat. Worse than a flat. Got that shit all pumped up full of slime. I usually just clean the valve stem a little bit before I stuff it back in there. These valve stem removers, you could get them on Amazon for like $2. They're cheap as hell, but they come in handy. Got my soapy water mixed with Dawn. Gonna spray the whole inside of the tire. There we go. So normally, I will favor one side and kind of get it in, and then inch my way around with my fingers and try to get it as far as I can. Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe get it about halfway, and then get your tire levers in place, because they are really hard to get in there if you get the tire on a little bit too far. So we got the first seal on. Now we're gonna put the tube on, and once the tube goes in, we'll get the second seal on. And this is where you gotta be careful not to pop the tire. I'm just gonna make sure that it's nice and wet up in there. Yeah, getting it in that hole is tough with like the Shinoko 244s, because they're skinny ass tires and it's hard to slip your hands in there. This one's slipping right in. I try at all costs to get most of it in with my hands without the tire levers, because I've definitely popped quite a few tubes doing this. Yeah, I know we skipped a little bit of putting the tire on. I didn't feel the need for you guys to watch me and JB struggle to get this fucking tight ass fucking tire on here. But anyway, now that we got it on, there's some important things you need to know, or it's gonna ride fucked up. You can see this line is for the seal. You want this to be even all the way around. Like, if you feel like it's like a teeny tiny bit off, like a millimeter or two, not a big deal. But if this line is hugging close to the rim here and it's far out over here, it's not good. You're gonna have to deflate and reinflate until you get it center pretty much. It could take a couple tries. Some of these motorcycle tires are really tough to get the seal properly, especially with a Super 73. The Super 73 has the seal on the wall of the rim, at least on the front tire anyway, but most rims have the seal right in the corner down here. So it's typically very easy with the Ariel Rider rims to get it to seal, but Super 73 front wheels, not so much. Next is tire pressure. You know, you may be able to fill your motorcycle tires to 40 or 50 psi's, but that doesn't mean you should do it. You know, the tires are so stiff and they're expecting a lot of weight, so when you're on a bike and you're riding them, you're gonna like be bouncing while you're riding off of every little bump. So you want to keep the tire pressure low. I usually like to keep it around 20 psi, sometimes even less. Like my personal bike, I kept it at like I think 16, 17 psi's. It all depends. Like on JB's, I could see that the tire wasn't completely up against the wall of the rim at like 16, 17 psi. So we pushed it up to, I think we had to push it up to like 25.
Right.
You can, if you push on it, you want to be able to feel a little bit of squish, which I still feel like they're a little stiff and some air, you know, could come out. But want to make sure that the tire is touching the wall of the rim. If it's not, it could be a recipe for bad news. Yeah, you know, this is feeling pretty good. It's pretty soft. I guess it all depends on the weight of the rider too. But anyway, this thing is good to go. I say we slap this thing on. Alright, so I always get the motor wire facing the back, and I'm doing it a little differently than I did in my last video. I'm using the lock washers on the inside. So if it were, I guess, to ever come loose, this little nub here will catch inside the fork. So it's just a safety precaution, and it provides good spacing. You need to stretch the forks a little bit sometimes when you have a lock washer on each side, but it's not too hard to do. Almost there.
Look at that.
There we go. So, I'm sure you guys know from the first one, we're going to do torque arms just like this and tap it with a screw. Only I want to throw some Loctite on there. We're going to do this on both sides. So I'm going to go grab the Loctite real quick and we'll get these set. Just remember, guys, you'll have the torque arms included with your motor kits, and it comes with 2 screws. One is bigger than the other. You're going to use the bigger one to tap into the frame with the first torque arm. So you slip the torque arm on, and once the torque arm is on, it actually helps if you take the bolt and you put it all the way on, just so the torque arm doesn't move at all. And once you have it all the way on, you'll take a drill bit that is size 732 and drill right through the hole, through the frame, and then you will thread the frame with the larger screw that comes with the torque arm set. And like I said, it helps to put some Loctite on there. So we got the first torque arm on. Let's do the other side. What did I do with that other bolt? Nope, it's inside here. So here's this. The other screw. Once again, you put this on. We'll put the bolt on just so that it doesn't move. See, bolt sided in there. Get it on, doesn't have to be crazy tight. That is a lot of Loctite. A lot of Loctite equals no chance of of the screw coming loose. I didn't have to drill this because JV already had these torque arms on his bike from when we did the 3,000 watt kit. So this one hit, I guess it could vary on which way it's going to face, because we're actually going to use the arm this time. So let's see here, which way will work out the best so that the holes line up. Don't need all that extra shenanigans sticking out looking all ridiculous and shit. Bolt cutters are helpful to have. So with you guys that don't have all these extra tools, I'm sure you'll find a way. Little ingenuity goes a long way. You could use a grinder, run it over with your car. That probably wouldn't work, but you could try. There we go.
Look at that.
Beautiful. So now this will go here, and I'll drill a hole for this, and we'll have to stick some washers behind here. So the double torque arm setup is a little, a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's highly, highly recommended. You'll definitely feel comfortable with riding your bike, and you won't have to worry about the motor coming off. Okay. Oh, made it too tight. Now I can't move it. Shit, still too tight. Yeah, so we're gonna have to put a spacer in here, or the bolt is gonna hit the frame, and we will use the screw here that's holding in the caliper mount. And we're most definitely going to have to get some washers in between here, or else it's going to try to make this thing cocked. It'll just be much stronger if we do the washers. So I'm going to get a drill bit and drill through this thing. Alright, I got this started, so I'm going to put it on the ground now. You want to start with a small drill bit and then work your way up in size, or it's just going to be way too hard. We'll end off with a size a little bit bigger than the screw, but I'll probably drill it out twice before I actually get to the right size. There we go. Yep, perfect. That's what I'm talking about. screw. So let's see. I think we're gonna need a longer screw here. Gonna have to put this on at the same time. Now that's tight. That's out of the question. We could simply just
Screw, drill it right there, right?
Yep, we could do that. You know, could also cut it and go to one of these pre-threaded holes. I don't know what the hell they're doing there, but that's much better. Drill my hole. So I got this screw going through here. Put some washers on just to make up for the gap that was made. And I'm gonna throw some Loctite in there. So just for the record, this is how you properly thread a hole. You use a size just slightly smaller than the screw itself, and then you will slowly drive it in and back it out. Each time you drive it in, you use a little bit of force and it'll go deeper and deeper without breaking the screw. Because if you just try to force it, you'll break the screw. And it's through. There we go, and we're in. We got ourselves a double torque arm set up on both sides. This wheel ain't going nowhere. It'll sure as hell hold a 150 amp controller, no doubt. So we're making these little brackets. You can get these at the Home Depot. They have these 4 staggered holes on them. So I just drilled one in the dead center so we can attach it to the rack for the Super Shark, and we'll screw this in first, and then once these are on, we'll be able to screw directly into the frame from each side. It's definitely the easiest way to do it, because it's kind of tough when you have the full frame battery in the way. I definitely found this to be the most effective way to do it. There we go. Nice. Now we just got to get a nut on the back of this so that it stays nice and tight. So if you guys are doing a Super Shark and a full frame battery, you definitely got to do the Super Shark first. I mounted these beforehand. I had to drill a hole in the center, dead center of each one of these, and I spaced them this way for a reason, because this goes towards the front and you could see where the straps are for the full frame battery. And I made sure they both landed in between there. And these lines we drew on there, we're gonna cut the excess off so it's not sticking out and sharp and gonna cut anybody or anything like that. So once we get this thing on, and we'll drill some holes through the frame to the other side so that we could put a nut on the bottom. We'll put the full frame battery on, and then we'll put the nut on the bottom afterwards. It's the only way to do it. I've done this so many times, and this is by far the most effective way. So now that we got the brackets mounted on here, I'm going to screw them into the frame. Helps just to kind of have the battery here, just so I know exactly where everything's going to land. I'm going to mark everything, and once I mark it, then I'll take the battery out so I don't accidentally drill into it and explode everywhere and kill us all. Alright, now that we got our holes marked, just drilled through and scored the frame so we know where our holes are going to go. We're going to remove the battery and drill all the way through. And then we'll put the battery back on and get the nuts on. Not trying to get them out all the way, but just enough so I can slide this up. If I can. It's in there fucking tight. This bad boy. You're gonna have so much capacity, JB.
No more range anxiety.
Yep, no more range anxiety. We can actually strap this up nice and tight with these straps up here. So we got all the batteries on now, so I figured the next thing we should do is put on the controller. So we have a V2, so it has the front and back mounts, and it fits perfectly where the seat screws into, here, and over here as well. So I didn't have to drill any holes for it. And another good thing about it is you have a nice fat cavity in the back of the panel casing back here. There's a nice big open cavity, so it's close enough to where we can keep all the connectors in here, so it's nice and clean and everything is hidden, which I love that about it. So I'm gonna finish mounting up this controller, and then we'll start plugging everything in. It does grab the mounts, but we should still put some lock nuts on there. Make sure it doesn't wiggle loose. Always use lock nuts. If you don't have lock nuts, then use Loctite. So now that we got the controller mounted, we're gonna have to connect the phase wires, which are, try to pull them up here so you can see them better, which are these that come off of the motor, the main things that are gonna power the motor. Connect them up color coordinated, shows right on the controller, green to green, blue to blue, yellow to yellow. Always do a hull test before you ride. If it doesn't pass, sometimes you have to swap the blue and the green don't just go ahead and try to ride it. If you have a problem with your hull test, make sure you call. But if you ride it without doing a hull test and the shit breaks, there's no warranty, so make sure you pass that hull test.
Right.
So it's a little hard to get to the terminal screws, so I put a Phillips head on a socket wrench to make things a little easier. Got one. You able to see the colors there okay?
Yes, sir.
So right now I'm gonna prepare to hook the batteries up to the controller. So I haven't put the harness on yet, but we're going to have to parallel these two batteries. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we've already charged the full frame battery and the Super Shark separately, of course, to fully charged. And now that they're both fully charged, and we know that they're fully charged, they can be connected together parallel. You can do it two ways. You can use a splitter. You know, this is a form of a splitter. This is a QS8 parallel connector. Or you could just use two harnesses. Typically I'll use two harnesses because I feel like it hits the controller a little harder, but I wouldn't say it makes that big of a difference to where I'd want to do it like that every time. I would just do whatever's the cleanest looking and most convenient for the build. So this Shark came with a XT90. They all typically come with a QS8, so I'm using this adapter to adapt it to QS8 so I can use my QS8 parallel connector, which I actually just got this on Amazon. As much as I like to make them, nah, that's not true. I hate soldering. Soldering sucks. So
I don't think anybody does.
yeah, I don't think anybody does either. So before we connect to these two batteries, I say we just double check them with a voltage meter, because a couple days has gone by since we fully charged them and I just want to play it safe and make sure that the voltage is the same. You can actually be up to like 2 volts off.
Oh, okay.
2 full volts.
2 full volts. Wow.
I wouldn't want to really I wouldn't be connecting the batteries if they were any more than that.
Okay.
You'll either have to wait for one to drain or charge one up more.
Nice.
Go, see, we got this. These QS8s are fucking hard to plug in. Alright. So you'll know if the voltage is too different and it's not liking it, because, you know, good chance you'll end up with a spark or something. But it hooked up, it's no problem. The batteries will beep if the BMS trips, which means your parallel connection was unsuccessful. So if the battery starts beeping, then you know. No beeping, so we're good to go. All right, the batteries are officially paralleled. Now let's get the harness on. There you go. This is the harness, terminals, QS8. Gonna get these damn screws out. Shit's a pain in the ass to do when it's down here. All right, it's in there, but now I gotta get it tight, which there's no way I'm doing it with this thing. So I'll have to make it work with this somehow. All right, now that we got all that situated with the batteries, we got the wire harness connected, everything is fed together, going through the same side into the bag. So this clump of wires, we'll sleeve this and make it look pretty so that it doesn't look ugly. But at least we have all the connectors hidden inside the bag. So now, like the throttle, display, this is just the buttons for the display. This is the switch for the light kit. And then we have the wires for the brake levers. So all that stuff we're going to feed through the bag. What I like to do, I feel like it looks the most professional this way. Everything enters through the same side, just like this. So take a look at the front real quick. So everything is like this, and then it will come together nice and neatly down the same side like this. And this is by far the cleanest way to do it, in my opinion. And of course we're going to clean it all up with zip ties and stuff like that once we got it all plugged in and ran through. So I'm going to do that right now. So all of this crap, I like to try to keep it in the top if I can. So if you put it on the side of the bag, it'll kind of make a bulge, which you don't want. So pushing the battery and the rest of the wires up into the top, one at a time. So everything's going to meet up in this little pocket in the back of the bag. The whole sensor for the motor, we got two of them. Doesn't really matter which one you use. I usually like to use this one that has the housing around it, and that will plug into the controller right here. I'll do that back, inside the bag on the other side of these wires. Click. So we got the Hall sensor. This is the other Hall sensor, so we don't need this anymore. I'll just tuck that away. We got the display. Has this weird little thing plugged into it. Get out of there. Just plop that there. Display.
Can you show that one really quickly again?
What?
The display one? Oh, okay. Nice.
So
It's a 5-pin.
yeah, it's the only one that has this many wires going on inside of it.
Nice.
So we have that. This is a brake lever. So this actually we're going to save for the light kit. The main harness for that, we're going to run that through a little later. You could plug it directly into the controller, but the light kit and the controller are connected by this wire. It's a single wire with a funky looking connector. This is communication between the light harness and the controller. So you could still have regen and still have motor cutoff when you have both of your brake levers plugged into the light kit, and it also makes the brake light work. So this is the only thing connecting to the lights, but we'll get to that later. So this is also for the lights. This is the switch. We'll get to that later. And then the throttle. So let's see what we got going on here. So we got the throttle. It's the red, black, and white. And I already know that it is green, red, and black. We're throwing in the alarm now. The alarm is awesome. You guys should really make sure you get it. And also, by the way, if you're going to plug something in and it doesn't want to go in very easily, then look at the pins, because if the pins are bent and they touch and blow the controller, that would really suck. That's also considered install error, which is not covered. So just be very careful with the pins, especially on these white Hugo connectors. The little black connectors, not such a big deal, but I've been hot gluing on the controller all the wires once they're in, just to make sure nothing like pops out or anything like that. So I've seen that cause one too many issues with these crappy Hugo connectors. All controllers have them, but what you gonna do? What's it called? The alarm. If somebody touches your bike when you push the lock button, it'll immediately start screaming, and it's pretty fucking loud. So that's one thing to scare people away. And second, if someone's got enough balls and doesn't give a fuck and they just try to run away with it while it's, beeping really loud, the motor locks. And, if you have a setup like this, the bike is too heavy to pick up and carry away. So having the alarm and the motor locking is just fucking awesome. I love it. With this bike, we had a whole lot going on, a lot of steps. We broke it down into a few videos, even added a few things after, we got the shop introduced. It's a pretty perfect build, I gotta say. This is like the king of all X classes. And then also with all the little things that JB did to kind of, I guess, customize it, doing the little accents of yellow here and there.
Batman mirrors. Yeah, man.
Of yellow and red. It's just like super fresh. Everything looks like it was meant to be. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's nice that we're not working out of that storage unit anymore, though. The Japanese lantern flies, they are just fucking terrible. Millions just bombing you while you're working. Go home to take a shower, have like 3 or 4 of them hiding in your bag and up your shorts.
Yeah, it was tough working, especially during the heat. Like when it was like summertime, like working out of the shop was definitely hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm super happy to be finishing this bike up in the store, though. Last thing we threw on were some front blinkers. That was really it. I'll show them to you guys. These are just some aftermarket, like LED strips. They even have a brake light to them.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I think it really added to the bike. It's super fresh looking too.
For sure. But yeah, guys, if you want to learn more about any of the other stuff with the build and also even the light kit and tuning, just visit E-Street Bikes on YouTube, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And guess we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Word.
Peace.